All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. An executive session was held in advance of this meeting to discuss personnel, contract, and legal matters. If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Are there any public comments on agenda items only? Nothing online? Anybody? No, I think we're good. All right. Moving on to discussion items, a review of the proposed budget for the 23-24 school year. Dr. Fox.
Thank you very much. And I was able to share with everybody a copy of this presentation real quick, as I'll just kind of review a couple of points before we attack some of the review of the line item questions that were in our document. Just for everybody that's watching, we are having some projection technical difficulties at this time that we're trying to work through. So please just be patient with us as we try to navigate through those. I just want to start out, as we do in any presentation, that we talk about as our mission statement for Susquenita School District, which is in partnership with parents, teachers, and community members. We're dedicated to providing a safe and enriching learning environment that establishes high expectations, incorporates rigorous academics, utilizes progressive technology, and focuses on developing the whole student so he or she may become a lifelong learner and make positive contributions to a diverse world. We said last time that there's some budget developmental goals that we have as an administrative team and as a collective team throughout, and that's to continue to enhance and maintain our curriculum offerings for our students, to continue to maintain and enhance our current facilities, and work to provide a budget that is financially responsible. We are and have experienced some budget constraints for this school year. Number one is cyber charter school payments. That continues to be an unfunded mandate. That is one that my understanding is back. There used to be some reimbursement for charter schools, and that has been completely taken away. And that continues to be a really high level cost for us as a school district, and one of the top constraints across school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Next is special education. When IDEA was first initiated and came out as IDEA 1, it was to be over time, a fully funded program by the federal government. That continues to not be the case and continues to be underfunded and continues to be something that continues to rise. And we have a responsibility, and we'll continue to provide our responsibility, which is the needs of our students. Utilities continue to rise. Electricity costs, liquid propane costs continue to rise. Inflation costs of 8 to 9% continue. We see it. When you go to the grocery store, you see it throughout the community. You see it anytime you go to purchase any type of good or commodity. Salary, benefits, and PSERS also continues to be a budgetary constraint. Looking at our historical cyber charter numbers, in 2021, we saw a height of students at 258, down to where we are in 22-23, which is 182. We continue to invite any student who's in the community who attends a cyber charter school to look at our Black Hawk Academy if you want a different online option, which provides more flexibility as well as a different hybrid that could be both in person as well as remote based upon the needs of the student. Looking at our overview of budget expenses, we have a total expenditures projected of $36,431,842.66. Our health insurance increase this year is 6.26%, which were a part of a consortium, and that is noted to be the smallest in our member consortium at this time. Salary increases are contractual, and our collective bargaining agreement continues until 2025. Overview of projected revenue. We're projected revenue at $34,182,270.31, and that's based on May 2022 assessment data from both Perry and Dauphin counties. Being a multi-county district of both Perry and Dauphin, we are and get our information from the State Tax Equalization Board, And being a multi-county tax district, we know that millage rates are subject to change every year regardless of any tax increase. We're sensitive to both assessed values and market values that get provided to us many times before they're finalized in late May. So there's always going to be a change based on the market value increases. As one rate changes in one county, the other could change as well. So our budget comparison from last year, if we looked at last year's budget, we were still projected at $35,991,796. This year's budget projecting at $36,561,732. That's a change, and we've got that change down even further than where we were last time. It is $440,046 of where we are at. So from this year, this budget from last year, the change is only $440,000. So that's important to note. And that's with roughly an increase of 8 to 9% in inflation. So overall, as of March of 2023, where we sit here right now, with revenue and expenditures, our deficit is approximately $2,249,572.30. So again, we continued, and each time we're continuing to bring that deficit number down at this particular point. There's some budget versus actual numbers that was asked for last time. That's in this presentation that I emailed out. It will be slide number 16. It's a little difficult to explain and try to share, but that is out there, and I want you to take a look at that because it will break the revenue, the expense, the deficit that was budgeted, the revenue actual, the expense actual, and then the deficit surplus actual based upon audited numbers. And then the last slide will be our actual fund balance. So that is information at this time. I'll take any questions. Hearing none, let's roll into some questions from the spreadsheet.
Just a quick comment. Maybe if we do get the ability to project, you can go over what the slides that you're talking about perhaps later on.
Sure.
Dr. Fox and I attempted to meet before the executive session, before this meeting, and I ran late in Dillsburg at the track meet, so that did not occur. So we are trying to figure out the flow of this meeting at this point.
Would it be too tedious just to say, like, anything on the first page, anything on the second page, lines, that way? Would that be too tedious? And I think we decided we're going to stop at 8 regardless, and then we pick up at the next budget meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Did you make highlights in your book that associate lines to your questions, basically? So like that way we can sort of kill two birds with one stone. If we do this line by line in the budget book, that will in effect reference to the questions that you asked within the spreadsheet.
yeah,
Because
or
that's
any-
what I did.
Yeah, but like if
Because then other people may have that didn't get a
it
chance
was
to put
already
questions
answered,
in.
I don't need to ask it again, and if it hasn't, we just go through. Yeah,
Okay.
if that's, everyone's okay with that.
Yep.
That's fine with me.
So like, if I were you, I would say like any 1 to 29, any questions? If
Okay.
not, we move on, I guess.
Yeah, looking at that first sheet, does anybody have any questions on that, regardless of whether you had a chance to write them into the detailed budget question sheet or not? And then I'll give a minute here for everybody to look. Go ahead, Marcy.
Let's start with line item number 1.
I'm shocked.
Listen to me. So are we adding, like, the middle school teacher salaries? Is that an addition of a position, or is it a shift because it's a $141,000 increase over current fiscal year?
There's not, so line item number 1 has an
Well, I know,
increase of.
between 1 and 2, like,
Oh, so I'll go line 1, 2, and 3 to explain the changes. There were teachers that were misclassified in the account code structures last year. So I appropriately put teachers that were listed in the middle school back into the high, or the teachers that, were listed in, that were not listed in the high school, That's why the number is explosively high compared to the middle school. So that's why it's 495,000 more and not a normal increase. The reason, there was teachers that were listed in elementary school that were actually in the high school, and so that's why the number is higher. The middle school actually didn't have any problematic issues. It was more so between elementary school and high school. So I appropriately placed them in the right codes. The elementary school teachers also lost teachers because they were put into line number 4, which is the Ready to Learn block grant, which is maintaining all-day kindergarten teachers. So all the kindergarten teachers are in, and benefits are in the number 4 line item. So that's why that number is up. The 187,992 number was arrived at by using the number that is that you are allowed to deduct from your tuition, your PDE 363 form, when you're formulating your charter school reimbursement. But in reality, the entire amount is used in your budget and spent on your budget on your teachers. So I took them out and classified them appropriately. That's why the numbers look weird. It's just restructuring and reclassifying and putting the teachers into the right codes appropriately.
So that brings up a question, and I don't want to be insensitive in asking it, but it seems like that we've had like 4 different business managers over the last 4 years, and some of these are like the superintendent's salary. If you looked at it this way, he did not have a salary last year because according to this, because he's apparently reclassified. In the alt ed teacher, like to me, and again, I don't mean to be insensitive, to me it seems like a no-brainer to know where the superintendent's salary should be categorized, but apparently it was categorized wrong. So I guess it's hard budgeting when every year things get moved around so much. It's really, really difficult.
That's why I did it this way.
I appreciate that you did, and this is not in any way a comment on you. I guess we have a new business manager, so I'm hopefully he's looking at this and is agreeing with your categorization so that next year we're comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges to pears the year before, because it's really, really difficult.
And this is why I did it this year. I did it this year for basically, because I started this before anything was happening with me personally, because I wanted to know from a descriptive standpoint, but also an account code descriptive thing, where things were, because there were so many things and line items that were open, there was nothing there. So we went through literally line by line, and I ensured through a salary report that is in our account system, and I worked with our HR department, and we went through literally.
I get that.
Yeah, but
I think you're very competent, and you have proven.
It was very frustrating.
You've proven to be very competent. So I just moving forward, I'm hoping that we can keep categorizing things the way they are now.
It is going to be, this is going to be the format, because Dr. Fox is the superintendent. He really guides the steering of the ship, and he was somewhat new and learning all this stuff. And I think through this process, I think I've taught him a lot too. So I think he knows what he's looking at a little bit more than he did in the past. So I think if anybody came in and tried to change it, he would have a lot of questions before. So I don't think it would be changed.
And hopefully the new business manager will be on board.
Yeah, he will be, I believe.
Yeah, and there always will be, and we had spoken about this, there will always be categories where somebody else will come in, and even when we get audited, they'll say, hey, that's really great that you put that there, but that category and that account long code really belongs here. So there will be some movements, because it's difficult to take all of those numbers in these big categories and then try to unpack them for all of us to kind of break this down and have these types of conversations. So it is a little bit of a challenge when we unpack it this much and try to really get down as granular as we can to have these really needed conversations.
So like for an example, I'll give you some more other examples, like in line 15, where the health insurance was all put into one line item for all the schools. But if you look at lines, if you add 15, 16, and 17, it equals 1.3 million. There was a decrease. In the past, you guys were budgeting like a 10 or 12% increase. I budgeted a very exact what the trust told us to budget. So instead of budgeting 10 or 12%, I budgeted 6.9%. So I didn't budget the high amount. When it comes to the PSERS line, it's the same thing. So when you look, excuse me, when you look at the PSERS line, yeah, I just wanted to explain it a little bit so you understand that a lot of these line items were ungrossed instead of grossed up. So I ungrossed them.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else on the first page, moving on to line 30 to 58. Nothing? All right, 59 to 87. Nothing major, but I was just wondering if we could get an explanation or just some sort of detail about what sports leadership trips PE is. I'm sorry, line 74.
Sure, that has been a reoccurring cost, and I'm going to turn it over as he powers on the microphone. Mr. Funk definitely knows it's part of our class that we have here at the high school, and he'll be able to explain
And
some of the
I
experiences.
will apologize, I did not put that in the spreadsheet beforehand for questions.
Oh, no problem. Happy to answer.
Thank you.
Each year, we have a sports leadership 1 and 2. They're the advanced upper class PE classes. They go to field trips. They've gone to the Climbnasium, get a discounted rate to go there. Just different off-campus opportunities to like kick up the level of, I guess, engagement that they've gone. But I think Climbnasium is where they went last year.
All right, thank you.
And when you look at the code beforehand, 519 is transportation.
Right, that's for that's for the buses and also any fee. I mean, we put also the fees in there, and if they need any food or anything like that, it goes in there as well. It's all inclusive.
And I didn't see the line, but looking here what I have, the price also includes, they budget for substitute teachers. So where I have 2 teachers going, that's $200 added right, well, $240 added right on top of the cost, just to include it in there,
Okay.
which is not passed on to the kids.
In a more general question, how do we decide, how does the administration decide which trips the district pays for and which trips we're charging students to pay for? Is there a process, or does one need to be developed?
I don't know if I have a clear answer for that. For like, if it's directly curriculum, I would say often well, that's not a clear statement because
I think it's safe to say a process like that has to probably be more redefined. Field trips in general need to be a little bit more redefined. But I think when we start thinking of those that are overnight, those that might be intrastate, when you start not being able to take a regular school bus and you're starting looking at a charter bus to go across state lines and into other states, those prices start to become very large. And then we began that process of how do we fundraise and what is the intent and purpose of the trip? Does it align with the curriculum standards in which we're wanting students to be able to learn and experience? And if those two things happen, what is the overall cost of the trip? At that point, then what does that look
Maybe
like?
in general, that's something to have a conversation about, because I know sometimes students are asked to pay, and then sometimes it's completely covered by the district, and I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason. I think some of it is because this is the way it's always been, sort of, but it might be time with the budget the way it is to look at that a little more.
Absolutely. We can certainly do that. And some trips have been supported heavily, and we're thankful from the Black Hawk Foundation has supported a lot of the trips as well when we think about some of the ones that our students have been able to experience because of their kindness and generosity.
I know you're chomping at the bit of it. Go ahead.
No, I have a question about line item number 75, and I think this might just be how it's described. It's van, mileage, parking, etc. And so I'm just wondering if the mileage is really just a misclassification, because then when you look at line items 82, 83, and 85, that is described as teacher travel. And then when you look at line 333, that is actually gasoline for district-owned vehicles, which I'm thinking falls under Mr. Howell for a lot of the maintenance vehicles. So I think this is kind of like a multi-part question, but what all is included in line 75 that we're looking at for?
Line 75 is it's high school related for student trips and things of that nature. The teacher travel would be for when teachers travel to IU or like type of things, if they went to a daytime conference or different types of reimbursable things for IRS mileage reimbursement. And the line that you're asking about in the 300s would be for tractors, for gasoline, for the for when he has to drive around to pick up supplies and things of that nature for any district vehicle in that respect that is not related to student travel or anything like teacher travel or anything like that. So they are three distinct codes. Maybe Mr. Funk could talk more about the vans, the mileage, and the parking. I don't know. This was cut from a previous year as it was not spent. So I'm not really sure exactly what this was a budgeted item out of the high school's line item budget, but it's more for transportation and that type.
I think sometimes we'll run vans for a lot of different reasons. Could be for a career shadowing opportunity for
Right.
students, job training, apprenticeship. So there's a lot of we run vans for a lot of different ways, and it kind of covers all of those expenses. And when it comes to like parking elements, sometimes down in Harrisburg, unfortunately, they charge every time you park.
Yeah, no, that, I'm not questioning that. I guess I'm questioning the mileage, because why would we reimburse mileage? I guess that's what I'm questioning, is why would we reimburse? And that's why I think it's maybe just a misdescription, and that why would we reimburse mileage for a school-owned vehicle when
We don't
it's our
reim-
own
We
vehicle?
don't reimburse for school.
Okay, that's
school-
what I was
School vehicles
asking.
taken, we don't reimburse
Right.
ourselves.
I mean, it makes sense to me that if a teacher's taking their own vehicle, they're going to get reimbursed for that mileage through the IRS rate. But that's what threw me off, is like, why are we reimbursing somebody for the mileage when they're not driving their own car?
So I'll give you a hint on some of these. The account descriptions, if they're in all caps, I wrote them. If they're in lower caps, they were carryovers.
Okay.
So if there's anything that's in lower caps, they're carryovers. If they're in capital letters, I wrote them in. So like if there's any misspellings, like I see line 84 is a misspelling, department spelled wrong, that's me. So I apologize for that. But there's some that are, so the capital letter ones are the ones that I typed in when I was writing this. I started this in December. But the low ones that are lower are ones that have been grandfathered in, and that I was able to find matches to it. I was working on the budgets for individual buildings.
Were you shouting? Is that why you did that in all caps?
Well, I was pulling out my hair. That's why I keep it short, you know.
Anything else? Anyone else? Mike? Good. All right. Move on to 88 through 116. There's those Apple pencils again. What, are we only buying 2 of them? There's only $200. Yeah.
So we went through this, what you have, and unfortunately, since we're not able to project it right now, they are not in there anymore.
Oh.
So what you'll see,
Okay.
unfortunately, is if you go into the live document and you have your device, in the essence of not printing multiple copies every other second, because again, this is living and breathing as we still go through it, those are no longer in there.
Mr. Stylus pens?
They are no longer in there.
Stylus pens are going too?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Line 90 is 0.
Can,
So,
Can I-
so 90 and 104. And here I was just messing around, playing.
can I ask about,
And here I was just playing around, because, last year it was like a big thing.
Maybe if I could get the tech to work.
Marcy, 87's gone too.
87?
87 is removed.
Oh, the Mighty
Oh, and the
Mouse.
Mighty Mouse, okay.
And Mighty Mouse.
What is a Mighty Mouse?
It's just
A bigger computer mouse.
It's a type of mouse. Can I, Christine, while you're working back there, can I ask you about the elementary school TV replacements? Are those broken ones, or are we still replacing
Yes.
TVs? I thought we replaced all of them by now.
No, we still have some Prometheus, old,
There's a couple places in the elementary school, common areas that, the LGI, so it's just very few, it's not very many left.
Okay,
But then, that will be it,
then we're done.
unless there's broken ones, but
Yes.
yes. Yeah,
But then we're just on the replacement cycle,
Right,
not the
not, right.
initial cycle. Okay.
Are
I
those,
thought
are
we
those
were-
Apple TVs, or can they be used with any device?
so they can be used with any device, but we do install an Apple TV with them.
Okay.
All right.
When I was on the board when this was going to save the world.
The Promethean boards?
The Promethean board was going to
Yeah.
save the world.
Yeah.
So Christine, just for my own, or anybody, for my own curiosity, what 3D printing supplies are we buying for all of the buildings? Is that just rolls of,
Yeah, the
Filament?
filament. The filament.
do we go through that much filament?
Oh, yeah. You figure one printing, depending on the item printed, it can take up a lot of different filament.
Do we print at full density, or do we play around with the density of them? Because I do 3D printing at work, so and
We do not, I think it depends on,
like how much fill, like you can play around with how much fill they are, so that you don't use as much.
yeah,
Filament.
I would have to check on that. I probably
just
depends on the item that's being,
No, well, that's, I mean.
The item that's being printed.
You're buying 40 rolls of filament for each school, in essence, with $1,000.
And there's also extruders, other
Yes,
parts,
like
so
the other
that
parts.
could,
Okay.
that could be part
Okay.
of it as well. It may not just all be the filament, and so just the upkeep of the current ones.
Do you have different size plates that you use for them, or
Just-
are you only using the standard size plate?
We use the standard size plate, but they've put on like the tape,
The tape,
just to make it smaller builds.
Okay.
Don't know that I'm gonna get this projector to work.
That was a great
without-
conversation that I didn't understand at all. Oh,
Well, then the sound goes away. It's up to you guys.
who, what?
we'll keep rolling.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. Anything else up to 116? All right, 117 to 145. I'll start. I was just curious if we could get some info about why that 142 reading consumables grades K to 4 jumped so much. Are they on some sort of refresh cycle and this is their year and that's why, or
I am pretty sure we combined that from another line item.
that too?
I feel like we did that. That was the one that it was originally Wilson, and then we had taken that out.
Would we find that somewhere
I
else in
think
here?
we
Like,
will, Mr. Fry. They
like,
are, I just don't know exactly what page or what line item. We'll find it.
So looking at these, they are consumables, and I believe they have to do with the foundations program. That is K to 4, K3, sorry, at the elementary school.
yeah, what I was wondering was, are we going to see a line somewhere else where there's a negative from
Lo-
previous?
Yes, line 648, Well, that's one of them anyways. Hang on one second. That's the PD. Yeah, line 204.
I have no notes on it, you're fine.
Oh, there's a negative 12,008 there. Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yep.
it.
Okay. Yep.
So that was a combination of what and Wilson?
Just 204 covers the difference.
204?
Yeah, 204 is almost $13,000.
Oh, that is professional, sorry. I just saw 12,000 and it wasn't there.
That was all I had in that page. If anybody else has anything.
No, that was the one that stood out to me.
All right, 146 to 174. Want me to start again, I guess? I think these might maybe be Christine, I'm not sure. 147 and 148, I was just curious what Neptune Safe Music and Swank movie
Ooh, I got this
licensing
one.
are, but I believe you did
Yeah, so-
answer me a little bit.
So Neptune is what it is, safe music. So anytime in the stadium, sporting events, phys ed, classrooms can use what we would call safe music. So it's safe to turn on, that there's not going to be profanity. It's going to be vetted. It's also able to be used. It's not going to have copyright restrictions to it as well.
I didn't know there was any music that didn't have profanity in it anymore.
And we hadn't been playing it in the football stadium for a little while.
Is it safe to assume this is not the first, we've budgeted for these before?
This is new.
Oh, is it?
This
Okay.
is new item, as well as 148, which is the movie licensing. And that allows us to be, ensure that we are not violating any restrictions that are there also.
So do we watch? When?
This gives opportunities for the PTO and other organizations to also use this, to be able to show, do we show full feature films? Not necessarily in its entirety all the time, but even showing sometimes a clip does in fact and can become controversial in terms of copyright.
So, yeah, just curious, were we ever potentially putting ourselves in harm's way in like when they do the popcorn and movie night for PTO in the cafeteria and all that? Because of how many people they have in there to watch?
Potentially, but
mean-
I do think sometimes the PTO pays for it.
Oh, okay.
So that if they're paying for the license, then you can buy just for one.
For that showing.
But this
Okay.
would include
Yeah,
for.
I'm just
those-
curious how that works, 'cause, yeah,
Absolutely,
that's.
and actually,
that
in the
sucks.
classrooms as well, if they're showing clips,
Well,
but their,
the end of the
the
school
school
year.
district would be in violation too.
Oh, wow.
so
Okay.
This would definitely help us with those copyright.
This is a lot cheaper than what the legal bill would be if we. All right, 151 was my next one. Just curious. I'm sorry, I'll be quiet now.
What's 150?
Oh,
Mergy.
Merge EDU, so that's pretty cool. You
Oh.
can, these merge cubes.
It should have been a hyphen. I apologize. Space.
I
That's
was like, Mergy do.
Let's see if I can,
Marcy, I-
let's see if I can get this one. It's really
Marcy,
cool.
Mrs. Marcy, I apologize. That's my Bumble typing. I'm the abominable snowman when I'm
So
typing
there are
in
merge
December. I
cubes that-
apologize.
There are merge cubes that students can use, and there are activities associated with this merge EDU, and it's really augmented reality. So they can pull up the United States Constitution, the Statue of Liberty, and kind of have that Statue of Liberty right here and walk through it while there are interactive lessons that they can use throughout it. That's just the history side of things, so you could do that with different biomes, all kinds of different animals. It's really neat.
I'm laughing at myself that I called it that. Oh, I'm hoping, what does Mergy do?
Am I allowed to speak now? Okay, thank you. 151 was my next one, the Acadians reading math. I just, fairly large jump there. Was wondering what that's about.
We are now covering K-5 with Acadians reading and math. So that's why our license amounts have gone up.
As compared to what we were covering, what were we
Like
covering before?
K2.
Okay, so we doubled the grade, so the double in
That's
price
it.
makes sense. I was gonna say, if we added one grade,
And an
that's,
additional subject.
Yep.
157, new cases for the kindergarten iPads. I have one of these iPads in these cases. I'm just kind of curious, did somebody really manage to break through one of those, that we need new ones at the tune of $7,000?
Well, so breaking through them, no. Getting them dirty and dingy and sometimes unable to be cleaned after a couple of years, yes. So when you break that down into roughly about 180, we always go on the high end just in case. It comes to about $40 per case, which is about the cost that we would have for the cases. Sometimes the tops and the devices themselves are protected. The cases do a pretty good job of protecting them, but they do get pretty beat up.
We had,
An example.
well, we had said that the kindergarten children wouldn't take their iPads home.
That is correct.
So, and I mean, these cases are only 2 years old. So, and again, I understand they might be dirty or whatever, but $7,000, what is it? $200 to put iPads in cases for kindergarten seems excessive to me.
If
they're
I
not,
may, I do think historically we have been doing this every non-refresh year. Historically, we have purchased cases for the reconditioned 12 to kindergarten or previously 7th grade. They are, I mean, you can look at them. I picked just 2 randomly that were in the middle school. I would say that there are some that aren't as bad, but then there are some that are even worse than these.
Well, one you,
Don't give Jonathan one.
that one,
I know, because my kids have them, and I know they're not in perfect shape, but with our budget deficit, what it is, we may have to just use old cases.
We can
The
certainly,
screen protector's the worst part of that thing. The case itself
Actually, I will
is
tell you this.
better. The front part's the bad part.
Yeah, I don't know if you can replace the screen protector on them or what, but,
yes.
but maybe we just replace the screen protector or go through them and try to recycle them instead of just throwing out all the ones that the seniors have, because they're not all in horrible, I don't think they're all in horrible condition. I mean, I hate that we have to nickel and dime, but we do.
Dr. Jones, I will say we do keep all of the cases that will come off of the seniors. We will probably throw some away. We do keep them because we have incoming students, the good ones that we can reuse for incoming students. If a case is potentially broken and a student can't maybe afford to buy a new case. So we do not just throw them away unless they're unusable. I do think so it's about $8. The last time we purchased the screen protectors, they were $8. I think that we could probably do that for some of them. I just don't know that we can do it for all. So if we want to, maybe I could look at cutting this to reuse the good cases, but buy new screen protectors and then buy some new. I feel like that would be doable.
I don't know enough about the iPad to see how strong it is, but if they're using them in the classroom and they're not taking them home, and I assume they're not walking around the building necessarily with them, I mean, I don't know what they're allowed to use them for or not.
So sadly, I think they do need a case
Yeah,
of
they-
some
they
sort.
still need a case.
Because
Okay.
it will, as soon as it's dropped, even if it's on carpet, they're pretty fragile.
Okay.
We can definitely, we'll take a look. We'll earmark 157. We'll take a look at some other strategies that we could come back with and see if we could get that $7,200 number and provide some other options from March 28th.
Are there, I mean, the feedback that I've kind of heard is, are there different types of cases that we could look at? I mean, I know cases are expensive no matter what in looking at them, but some of the feedback I've heard is that the students, and I know the screen protectors are on there for a reason, but the feedback that I've heard is they don't like them because they get scratched, and then it makes it harder to see the screen of the iPad. And so while I know they're, are you looking at me funny?
Because unfortunately, if you don't put the screen protector on there, the screen is going to scratch instead.
It's glass.
It doesn't matter, they will scratch.
And we did have different cases prior, the STM folio, which did work, and so they were covered when they weren't being used.
And they weren't being used.
They were protective. I will just say one thing about the older ones is there was a lot of fabric in it, so the smells of it. But I've heard since we went to these, there's new ones that don't have fabric. So I feel like as part of the next refresh, I
Right.
wouldn't want to
Right.
put a new iPad just in our case for some people. So there's some students, so the next refresh, I would definitely look at samples of cases and look to see if there's a better option.
Right. But I also know for some of them, like the back, the stand has just, like, it
They
pops
break
out
off.
and you can't,
Yeah, they break off.
they break off and you can't get them back in. And so
So the
then,
next refresh-
basically, they get used as a carrying handle because you can't use it as a prop anymore. What? So, but like, and I know cases, no matter what cases you look at, you're looking at $25 to $40 no matter what. So that's unfortunately the cost that you're looking at.
And I will tell you, one year we purchased really, really cheap cases and the breakage went through the roof, so I would not recommend doing something like that.
So we'll definitely highlight 157. We'll come up with some different strategies and have some conversation about what can protect the assets, which is really, really important for us too.
Does anybody else have anything up to line 174? All right. Moving down to 175 through 203. I had 191 and 192, the computer lab and the esports lab. I thought that the foundation had provided computers for that, but I did see your note in there, so if you just want to expand
Sure,
upon
the
that.
foundation's done a great job in providing us 6 computers. And we're excited in April's caucus to have our students present how they built these computers. So they weren't just ready, unboxed, and ready to go. The students, under the direction of Mr. Fleischer, built these computers by the components, which was a great learning experience for them. So we were able to get 6. My understanding, through some, as we want to expand the esports lab, we're looking to add additional computers as well as some additional equipment in there. My understanding, part of the lab, as I learn more and more about esports, the chairs, because you do sit for a little bit of time to compete, and some of the accessories also. But that's certainly, the foundation has given us a great kickstart to this program. Absolute kickstart. So they are up there. The students have experienced that, so we are able to enjoy that thanks to their generosity and support.
Thank you for the explanation.
What's 6,000 supposed to cover?
So the 6,000 can cover other areas of the esports lab, such as chairs, but it also, most importantly, is to provide additional computers. Right now we have 6. We think 6,000 will provide us with an additional 3 or 4. Oh, sorry, 3 or 4.
It won't
I was
be
going to
many.
go with 6, but I'm wrong.
Aren't you just hopeful?
And we are also looking for other funding as well, so if anyone knows anyone who wants to help support the esports lab.
What's the 20,000 for the, it says high school computer lab 309?
Yeah, absolutely. So 309, I believe, is the number of the classroom. 309 is our computer science classroom. And the idea behind that is, as she continues with the computer science to do more Java and Python, the power and updating of those computers. So those current PCs that will be in that classroom, they're not going to just go away. We have a use for them. So really, when you think 20,000, we're actually getting 2 labs for the one. That lab and those computers will go down, and we're going to use those in our technical education room with Mr. Moore, and he's going to redesign into a CAD lab for our students and be able to do those crossover between the build, design, and hopefully, as we continue to look more and more at that integration, but hopefully now we're able to get the 2 labs. and use those computers, and then get those upgraded computers for the power that's needed as she continues with the Python, Java, and other programming languages that she's teaching.
So what kind of computers do we currently have? Because I thought all of our computers were converted to Apple Macs.
They are PC computers.
Okay.
So we have one tech ed teacher, correct?
That is correct. At the high school, and then one at the middle school.
So at the high school, I know we had talked at some point about maybe Project Lead the Way or some introduction to engineering courses. So what does this one tech person teach?
It's going to be changing next year. I shared that with my course handbook. So this year, small engines, electronics, wood 1, 2, and 3, and probably one other one I'm forgetting. Next year, he'll do the woods 1 and 2, the home repair course, the architectural and design course, and the small engine course.
And CAD? Is
Well,
CAD
that's the architectural design course. That's the CAD's included with that.
Okay. That'd be maybe like one section of that?
Well, it depends on, we're going to probably stagger it, so we have their half-year courses, see what it pairs best with to see, and it depends on the need. I would expect the home improvement one to be very popular and based on course numbers. So there could be multiple depending on what the students are interested in.
So
It's frustrating, because I think that we used to have two tech people, and I think small engine repair is really important, and I think like the woodworking stuff is really important. But at the same time, I think the CAD's important, and like intro to engineering is important. We only have the one teacher, and then I look at this budget, we're spending a lot of money on wood, and a lot of money on, like, I think it was just $9,000 on just wood supplies, so plus, I don't know, I know, it's frustrating. I wish we could offer more for our kids on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm thinking, is this a good use of some of our budget? Because let's face it, the ones who want to go to Career and Technical Center, can't necessarily get there because they're, understaffed.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the other point is, as you know, is that some kids aren't meant to sit at a desk all day. They need to get up and move around, and they need classes like this, just for variety. So yeah, we have to have them.
Dr. Jones, the reason I looked a little bit further into the expenses with the wood and the wood supplies, the cost of lumber is up about 30 or 35%, and that's the reason why the wood expenses.
Trust me.
Yeah,
Trust
I mean,
me,
that's one of the reasons
I
that we're
know.
hit pretty hard over that.
Spend
but-
like, what, $12 for a 2x4 or something?
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
yeah, so that's kind of one of the reasons why the lumber is expensive.
And another, I can jump in since we're talking tech ed. What we're seeing is we have a new teacher in there that's introducing new projects, new learning activities. So he's gone through and evaluated the entire shop and said there's a lot, since we were doing the similar activities like the CD clocks and that for many, many years, some of the machines weren't used. And so he's gone through and the shop's missing like bits and routers, there's not really there, heads to some of the different planers and joints. I'm reading his notes because don't ask me exactly what those are, but so he's going through and these things all need updated, or he's been bringing things in from home this year from his own supplies to offset like projects the kids are doing. So I think this year will be the bump year for this shop because he's totally bringing it up to where it should be.
And certainly, I respect and agree 100% with what you said. How can we offer more? And I don't know necessarily if we can offer more as much as what, ironically, Mr. Moore is doing, and that's bundling. And how can we take some of these skills, and he is trained in Project Lead the Way, and how can we take these skills and combine them into these classes? So it is elements of electricity. It is elements of the mechanical. He does have them designing and being able to read schematics and blueprints, because if you can read a blueprint, there's a lot of opportunities for you. So all of these really, really integral and important skills being combined in these classes, so they're not just one or two skills that you learned, but rather we're packaging them together in that project-based learning experience.
Thank you.
I was curious about 199, what a piano lab replacement table is for
Yeah, within-
$2,700.
So we have the keyboards, and they're inside of our one music classroom, and unfortunately, there's a couple of them that are broken. Is that accurate, Mr. Funk, I believe?
Thank you. All right, anybody else for 175 to 203? All right. Moving on, 204 to 232. A bunch of these were a little confusing to me at first, but with the explanation of grossing up the numbers and combining things, it all comes together and, you know, kind of makes sense. The negatives outweigh the positives to come up with a small increase in cost
Yeah,
for
and
the
just-
grossed up number.
Yeah,
cost.
and the thing with this budget is it's very real-time, true-to-life numbers. There's not a lot, it's almost like asking someone that has a 1% body fat to go on a diet. There's not a lot of really fat left on the bone here with this. So this is really true. That's why some of the numbers are down. If you look at that spreadsheet, that I wish we could show that slide. Hopefully next week we can show that slide that Dr. Fox had showed about the budgets, how you budgeted a $2 million deficit and you come in at $67,000 over. This is not going to happen this way because it's kind of a true to life type of thing. So I just wanted to go over that with these things.
I have a question about 210. Is Perry County Chorus combined with Perry County Band that we didn't budget for Perry County Chorus this year?
No, they changed the name.
Yeah, I believe that was, John, if you want to.
see. There we go.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Dr.
that's going to
Fox.
be up above on 206 Choral Festival. Yeah. So the name just got, yeah. But it's in there. And the 500, when we look down, that's middle school, 800 is high school. Oops, 800 is high school, and 200 elementary school.
Like Dr. Jones said, hopefully in the coming years, we'll have, you know, all these same line items to compare from one year to the next, because it is very difficult when something jumps around. Doesn't help much, does it? Okay.
This is because I'm the map.
Yeah, for what, 4 more days, 5?
Thank you. See, it is easy to go there in your head, it really is.
No,
Because every year it changes, so you can't follow it.
No, I cleaned the smoking
I don't believe that's the case, but it is easy to go there.
John, how am I cleaning the smoking
All right, and we're getting back to
All
taking
right,
a look at.
lines, moving right along, if there's no further questions, lines 233 to 261. Doesn't look like there's anything. 262 to 290. I was just curious about the capital area intermediate unit, the fairly substantially large increase in budgeted number there. Sorry, line 282. Yes, thank you.
So that line item number is, number one, it's for the emotional support classroom that we have here, but it's also for placements for our students that we have. When I was formulating this budget, Dr. Conrad had came to me and said that she had held a couple of meetings with students that were oncoming and that they would need potential placements. And so it would be smart of me to increase my numbers for potential placements. Now, all of our students are our students, and so in that being said, we I wanted to make sure that our placements were accurate and portrayed a fair number into our budget. And so this number is an accurate portrayal as it stands as of March the 21st, 2023. But I'm fairly confident with one of the best special ed directors that that I've met in my career here, that this number will be fairly accurate and portrayed in a very good fashion, and could be brought down through being able to do some of these placements in-house potentially. But this number could also change because as students come in, students leave, this number could bebop around quite significantly. So I think that as of right now, this number is a fair portrayal. But as Dr. Fox had mentioned in his presentation, the special education costs are one of those costs that are very touch and go as they go along on a regular basis. And also, when you go down to 283 to 286, I don't know where these schools were located in the tuition side of our budget. So now you get to see them and what we pay for them. So that's why they're there, and that's why it's substantial increases on those as well. So that's students that are going there now. If that changes between now and budget time or budget closure time, they could be removed. If not, they will stay, or they could even be increased based on our needs and our students' needs as required by our department.
Don't we
So you're
purchase?
saying you can't figure out where these were budgeted before?
I could not find them in our previous
So
budget.
you're just adding $700,000 to the budget and can't explain where?
No,
it
no,
was
no,
before?
no. The CIU emotional support was in there, but the Vista School and the New Story schools were located somewhere in their tuition codes. But I could not seem to locate exactly where they were in the tuition codes. So there might be a reduction somewhere in there, but I don't know exactly where. So like, there's not like an offsetting $700,000 or a $300,000 decrease somewhere. So it is an increase, so there is an increase in there that I can't find an offset for. So I think there was buried somewhere in the tuition codes, but I wanted to break them out for you so you could see them, so that when they come in and you see the tuition bills, you understand what the tuition bills are. So that's what I meant by that, so to clarify that a little bit.
So every year we do purchase seats for a couple of these programs as well.
They're listed individually where they got lumped up into. Can't see where they got lumped up into. Last year individually, the line item is empty for fiscal year, for this fiscal year 23. But it's a change of a negative from the previous fiscal year, but there is nowhere that it shows where they got bumped up into.
So I think the question, just so I understand, I'm sorry, is you're asking where in previous?
I think it might be line 353, the approved private school, where there is 430,993 budgeted for, and now there's a negative there. I believe that is where they were grossed up into, because those schools that we mentioned are technically private schools. I believe that is where they were grossed up into, and now they are not grossed up into that section anymore. They are broken out into their own proper categories where they belong. And so they're also listed there. The Vista School, New Story, River Rock, and Yellow Breeches are all technically private schools, and they are now taken out and put into their own separate categories.
Why did you say that?
Well, because Phil, I didn't exactly know where things are. There's 1,000 line items in here. Phil and I are having a side.
All right. Anything else through 290? All right, 291 to 319. All right. We'll move down again to 320 through 348. I had just highlighted line 334. The description is gifted program teacher. And while I'm confident that all of our teachers are deserving of substantial raises, that one just jumped out at me. I just didn't know what the,
What the reasoning behind?
Yeah, yeah,
So the
I-
reasoning behind, it's not the same teacher.
Okay.
And the teachers, not just based on years' experience, so when you move years' experience, you're moving down the collective bargaining agreement and the negotiated agreement. You also, as you earn credits, you're moving across the scale as well. So the teacher that's in the current position has more credits as well as more years' experience and is paid on a different version of the negotiated agreement.
so last year's budget was based upon a different person that was in that position, and
Yes.
this year's is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I look at this and I'm like, I hope my work gives me, the percentage of increase that is, but it's not the person that, yeah. Anybody else have anything up to line 348?
Is there a reason that the FICA and the PESers for 336 and 337, why it's assigned to the high school versus that the 334 and 335 are just general for the district?
And there was nothing the year before.
Probably should be assigned to the district, not to the
Okay.
high school.
Yeah,
To
that's what I was
match
just
those
wondering.
two, so we'll correct that.
Okay,
Is that accurate? Yes, it is.
okay.
Oh, yeah, that's accurate. I'm sorry. I'll fix that.
Yes, it's a district-wide position. Thank you.
All right, if nobody else, if there's nothing else to 348, 349 through 377. I see your favorite there on line 352, if you want to, mention it again.
Unfortunately, I do not, but I just want to mention, when it says charter school, again, anybody who's out there, it is a significant portion of our budget. When you look at what we are currently paying right now in our current deficit, the actual expenditures that we pay to cyber charter schools is far more than our current deficit. So any students and any community members, again, we invite you to take a look at what we have to offer in person, and we also have to offer in our Black Hawk Academy and/or a hybrid version of both. We have a tremendous amount of flexibility, and we can customize your learning experience for you.
So the charter schools can literally spend probably about $15,000 or $20,000 on a giant Caterpillar as a float in a parade to advertise, and I'm not joking, and we're paying for that. I mean, we don't have $15,000 to build a float to put in our Halloween parade to advertise our charter school. And for anyone listening, that's how ridiculous it is. They're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on advertisement and everything else, and our students and taxpayers are paying for it.
You are correct, Dr. Jones. Actually, Forbes magazine produced in January of 2022 a very detailed article about the expenses that cyber charter schools have been doing. And recently, one being CCA has spent close and upwards to $19 million in advertising. When we think of $19 million, what we could do with $19 million would just be unbelievable. And we think advertising and some of those just were not even fully released as well. And yes, I think what you're talking about in terms of a balloon was actually Gerald the bookworm that was in the Philadelphia parade. And I have a picture of Gerald the bookworm, and I look at that and sometimes I lament because the price of that certainly would offset a lot of our costs. And we don't have a choice whether we pay cyber charter, because if we do not pay, it's a deduct from our subsidy that comes from the state.
I have a question about the decrease for number 350, line 50, 350, sorry. Is that decrease in the number of students that we're seeing qualify for that service for CAIU, or are we starting to provide that in-house?
We do contract with
We contract with someone, so the contracted, you would look at line 346 to find that cost.
That's for OT, not PT.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're different services.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
So we'll look at that. I
We're
believe it's.
often
I believe
confused.
it's, yeah, absolutely. And that's what caught me before I was continuing, was the difference between OT and PT. My guess would be hours and what's in there, but certainly we need to take a look at that to
Yeah,
make sure
'cause
that
that's
that number is.
that's a significant drop
Yes.
of $60,000. And so that would mean that either you have a lot of students graduating or who no longer qualify based on their IEP, or,
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
line number 350, and we'll take a look at that.
and then same thing with, for 346, it's also a decrease of 15,000 for your contracted OT. Does that mean you have less children qualifying for that service, or are you contracting with the IU to provide that service? Are you anticipating that children coming into the district are not going to have IEPs and not need that service? Just, not that I want to spend our money, but we also want to be prepared for.
Absolutely, absolutely. So 350 and 346 need to be looked at a little bit closer. Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else up to 377, we'll move on to 378 to 406. I was just curious about 393 equipment maintenance and how that kind of quadrupled.
Yeah, I think that
in
goes to
number.
what Mr. Funk explained really well earlier on with some pieces of equipment when we look at our technical education program and some pieces that needed to be repaired, replaced, and just the overall kind of refresh of that particular program.
And then 400 woodworking supplies, I believe the answer was just the cost increase of lumber. Anyone else? Up to 406? All right, 407 to 435. Are you good over there? Okay. Can I move along? All right, 436 to 464. I was just curious why the elementary school guidance PSERS contribution more than doubled. Was there, is that a grossing of numbers? Did we add a person? I'm sorry, line 460. Thank you. Sorry. You can fire me.
So certainly no adding of any individuals. When you look, there was not. So
And it looks like middle school PSERS is zero, like that's a lot of the stuff in here that's like that. I just assumed it was this recategorization.
Oh, well, no. Mine that was Peasers, 1,000 from last year, and then this year it's Esser's.
So ESSER's 3 reminds us that's the funding source that we're going to be using, and that's what's established under the beginnings of that code. So as we're able to track it for federal accountability, that's certainly why it's labeled with those parentheses. So it is accounted for, the middle school guidance PSERS, and that's labeled as 462. Same with high school. But to answer your question as to why there's an increase,
I'm looking up. So if you add the three numbers in the fiscal year '23 adjusted budget, it comes to 130,954. And if you add the three numbers in that make up the other numbers, it goes up to 149, and so that's a $19,000 increase. I have to examine, I'm going to look while you guys are continuing to move on, and I'll hope to have an answer for you before the end of the night tonight. Well, actually, it comes to 141. So it's an $11,000 increase. That could be contributed to their salary increases. I'm going to check to make sure from the report that there's, number one, no problematic errors there. Number two, that it was budgeted for appropriately last year, and that there was no problematic things there. But I believe that is accurate, though. I just think it was just recategorization there. But I was going to check something in the account system from.
Well, can you look at, because like if I look at the guidance for the high school, last year, it looks like it was 74,000 was the budget. But if you look at how they're broken out this year between the two,
It's 54.
the total is only 64.
Yeah, I think
And
there
you
was.
just said it
Yeah.
increased.
Yeah, I
So-
think
But that's a $10,000 decrease.
Yeah, I think there was I think it was because it was grossed up incorrectly into different, like, you know how, remember I mentioned about before how there was different people and
Different
different things?
people.
So that's what I'm looking for in the CSIU, how
So I
they were,
have-
they were grouped together.
I do have the report for retirement right now, and it does say 41,737.38 for elementary school. And that is based on the projected salary for the two school counselors, and
I'm
that's
looking
based
for
on the
last
retirement.
year. Yeah, I'm looking for last year, though, see, to confirm that there was a problematic. Yeah, I know, but I want to see for last year.
Different school counselors last year.
Oh, were there? Or for this year, though?
So last year, there were different school counselors as well, which the adjusted piece rate could be based upon their earned salary based on the negotiated agreement. Same with the high school. As new school counselors came in, the adjusting salary will also adjust their piece rates. Yep.
All right, anybody else up to 464? Okay, 465 to 493. Jason, what are these supplies for middle school positive behavior, food, ice cream, social? 481, 483. I mean, okay, it's only $400 for the ice cream social, and granted, the kids positive, they get rewarded and all that stuff. But I thought the PTO was. Yeah, I mean, I'm not advocating to put it on the PTO. I'm just saying I thought they did.
43 is the middle high elementary school.
Okay. Okay.
483 is actually elementary school.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. 481
There's too many
is-
codes.
I know,
on there.
I know. The 481 is middle school, as well as 480 is blank now. So we did consolidate that into one category. So if you look at the old, it did have 480. We don't have redundancy, so it is just basically on 481. Yes, ma'am. It's 750. Yes. Yes, Marcy.
All right, anybody else up to 493? All right, 494 to 522. I think you put an answer in there, Dr. Fox, but I didn't get a chance to really see it. 499, attendance clerks at the tune of $85,000. Is this a rolled up
There's,
thing from
there's
before?
two salaries.
What is that?
There are two salaries for our two. So attendance clerk is kind of a large umbrella name. They do enrollment. They also help out with McKinney-Vento and establishing that, kindergarten registration, new student registration. So a lot of different accounts and accounting when it comes to our child accounting.
Where were they before, basically, I guess is my question, because it's a 0 from 23.
That's a great question. I'll have to research that answer for you.
Okay, it's just one of those that moved, more or less, I guess. Okay, that's fine.
They were always in there.
Mike likes the way this stuff shifts around. Right, Mike. My other one was on 522. I'm guessing just new people or some difference. You know, a $77,000 jump in the tech department salary placeholder. I don't.
So that's all. It shouldn't be labeled as a placeholder. I think that was one of the numbers that it involves three individuals being kind of, while we unpacked a lot, that's one that was still kind of grouped together and clumped together. 522.
So you're saying that somewhere in here, there's probably an offsetting negative.
I don't believe so.
524 offsets.
Oh, sorry.
524 offsets 522. There's also another one that'll probably offset it, 527. Or they're all offset. It shouldn't say placeholder, just tech department salaries. It shouldn't say placeholder anymore. Placeholder was a line that was left in from a previous budget.
All right. Did anybody else have anything up to 522?
So for line 510, is that our realistic number for our two district psychologists?
Yes, it is.
Okay. That seems to be lower than what we budgeted last fiscal year.
Yes, last year we had a lot of contracted services as well.
Okay, so that's a good thing. Okay.
All right. Was that all up to 522? All right, 523 to 551. I did not have anything, if anybody else does. All right, moving right along, 552 to 580. I had a few on here, I can start. I was just curious about 552, the vulnerability assessment. I'm guessing this is some sort of
I'll answer
network
that question.
vulnerability.
It's for the tech, Jonathan. So it's required by our auditors to do a vulnerability assessment of our technology, IT systems, to assess for any vulnerabilities in our financial systems that we maintain all of our all of our financial records. It also does for our school records, our student records as well. It's also going to be a requirement very soon, if not this year, for our insurance purposes, for our cyber attacks. So it is something that we need to do every year, so it's a required cost.
Just by the title of it, I assumed it was network, network infrastructure.
I do want
Rob
to
would
state
be better.
there is another option that I believe I did share, but I want to share it again, and that's participating with the CAIU. The CAIU has contracted with districts to provide service for cyber, and I believe the partnership to buy in is close to 30,000, somewhere in that range. I think it might be 15 right now, but 30 over time, per year. As a reoccurring cost. We believe at this point, with our vulnerability assessment that we can conduct with the work of Mrs. Matos, Mr. Fleischer, and Mr. Zabel, that we're able to secure our network. And also, they do host our off-site backup as well as our WAN overall. So we believe we're in pretty decent shape. But we wanted to provide that option as well, that you could get more information. We could bring back more information if you'd like.
So have we looked at anybody besides the IU to provide that type of network security, or is that, as a school district, is that our only option?
So we are not partnering with the IU. Instead, we are using our internal services, and then so the person who's doing a vulnerability assessment helped us in a prior issue, and we could partner with him if we needed extra support, and his costs are much less, like the vulnerability assessment. So we do have resources. There's free resources. MSISAC is a free resource for school districts, and we use them on a weekly basis already, getting information. So we're looking at free and reduced costs if we need them.
Okay.
My next one was 560. Is this what we pay somebody for hosting services?
Yeah, so that's
And they're-
we're moving to School Messenger, and we're currently with Blackboard, moving to School Messenger. It's a little bit of an increase because of the transition, but the yearly cost will be less moving forward. It will be less than last year's.
Okay, so there's like a increase due to implementation, and
Correct.
then there will be an overall reduction.
And we're
there.
adding the school app, a new messaging
Yeah,
system.
and the
we-
better emailing
Right,
process
right,
to
yep.
individual people and all that.
Yep.
Yep, okay. 577 and 578, I'm sorry, I'm all over you here. iPad, Mac repairs. Are these just products that are outside of Apple Care, or is this on top of, is this like the deductible that you pay towards the Apple Care? or
So
something like this,
because when we purchased the iPads, we only bought 2 years of Apple Care, and we're not refreshing this year. Our iPads no longer have Apple Care.
Okay, so you're just
I'm-
planning for just in case?
Yes, I'm just budgeting this because we will have repairs that we will have to pay for now.
Okay. How's that, it brings up, just brings to mind a question. How's that roll into play with the parents that chose to purchase the
And we
insurance?
had that money, we're gonna use that first, the
Okay.
iPad insurance, but according to my calculations, we will run out of that. And otherwise, it would probably be a lot more that we would have to budget for if we weren't going to use that. But that's, our plan is to use that money first. This is on top of that.
Okay.
So just roughly, if an iPad was $400, that's probably on the high end, right? And we went to, no, that's about right?
An iPad for $400?
Yeah.
Did you steal it? Or did you
To
actually buy it?
repair it, it costs $400.
All right.
The cost
That would
of an
only be
iPad
12.
is
I was just
$400.
doing, okay. Maybe the night's getting to me. Sorry.
So
No,
on average,
I
it's
get it,
about
though.
130 for an iPad repair, on average.
Yeah. You go to Best Buy and try to buy an iPad for $400, the 16-year-old kid that works in there and knows more about them than any of us is going to laugh at you right out the door. I think they're like way more than that.
No one has it. Yeah, it's there.
I know.
Um,
But can I?
All right, I'll wait for my next one. Go right ahead.
I just want to ask about line 563, e-faxing.
Yeah.
What are we, where?
So
yeah.
we're reducing the amount of lines, or telephone lines, and e-fax is an electronic fax.
Oh, yeah,
So
I
all
know.
of our facsimiles will come electronically.
Are we getting it through a service or like, are we paying for like one line per school? Like how, like
So
what are we
we're,
doing?
currently, we have one e-fax line with the attendance and registration. And then we have one fax in each office, one in the district office and one in the guidance at the high school. We're gonna transition all of them to e-fax, and it is, I think it's actually called e-fax, is the company that we're going to transition to. And then we will no longer have to pay for the phone lines that we're paying for.
Yeah.
And then we'll pay for e-fax instead. So we will have, the fax numbers will not change, so the end user will not see anything different. It will just be our users will access the faxes differently.
I'm surprised our new phone system we're purchasing doesn't come with that. Have we looked into that?
Yeah, phones, we're going to an IP phone, so fax is actually a POTS line, so it's two totally different types of phone systems. And the recommendation from our new phone system is to go to e-fax because then you no longer have to pay for the POTS lines.
Yeah, no. And okay, so that makes sense. So you get, typically you get 5 numbers for about roughly around $100 a month, and you can get up to 5 e-fax lines. Yeah. And I think, and we use e-fax. We actually use the company e-fax. So I think that is,
And that's what we're
yeah,
looking at.
that is. And you just type in the number at efax.com, and it sends it through an email. Perfect.
So I had a question on 571, Fitbits, $1,000. I'm curious, like that seems like a lot of money for Fitbits, and I guess the students use them in some of our phys ed classes, but we should get them back. Like I don't understand why we don't assign the kid a number and a Fitbit with an understanding that if they don't return the Fitbit, they have to pay for it.
We can certainly put an obligation in to try to retain that, much like we do with a lot of different.
I mean, we get our
items.
iPads back from the kids, or they have to pay. I mean, $1,000 is $1,000, but
Absolutely.
it's a lot of Fitbit.
We're gonna write that down as well. Typically, what a Fitbit's about $100, so we're looking at, yeah, and we do use those in our Blackhawk Academy, and we use those for some students as well, and for some phys ed classes. But that's certainly something we can write down and.
They're $100. Fitbit's $100. Wow. Okay.
I was curious about 578, what Route Finder Plus is.
So that's our transportation software. Currently, we're at Route Finder Pro. We're upgrading to Route Finder Plus and moving to cloud.
So
So
we'll be able
there-
to see where the buses are in real
It's
time, so to speak, and all that? No?
No, we're not doing that.
Okay.
It's the transportation where Mrs. Feltenberger uses to route the buses for drop-off and pickup. Route Finder is moving everybody towards Route Finder Plus. They're no longer going to be supporting the Pro. So we have to make the upgrade. The annual license will not, it's more like $2,000 annually. Don't quote me, but it's closer to that. This is, again, that first-year implementation fee.
Okay. I don't like those. All right, anybody else up to line 580? All right, moving on, 581 to 609. This one's probably you again. HPE Tech Care, looks like another something.
Yeah, so it's the service on our servers. When we bought our servers, it was included in the cost of it for the first 3 years. If they were to go down, we would need that service level to contact them for support and then for replacement. So it's kind of that insurance on them.
Okay. And are they HP products? Is that
They
why it's
are.
HPE? Oh.
Yep.
So that'll be a 9,500 this year and then 0 the next 2 years?
Correct.
And then, okay. 593, the TV studio in the middle school, almost $50,000.
I think we'll all kind of jump on this one as well, and it's certain. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got something to say on this one, okay. About 2.5 years ago, I went to a conference, EITC, and the head of EITC was there. And he said there were 2 things that always get funded. One is STEM, and one is TV production. In fact, he used the term slam dunk when he said that. As a result, now when we write up our proposals for things, we want to make sure we throw the word STEM in it, whether it's got any STEM in it or not, because I know they don't read them too close. But and 50,000 is a lot, and as Dr. Fox knows, it took us 5 months to get certified this year by EITC, so we're having our problems with them. But this is a possibility to fund something like this in the future. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
I love it. I think that we could look at that and write a grant for that.
Yep, so I'll write this one down, and we can definitely postpone and ask for the kind assistance of the Black Hawk Foundation in the future. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rubish. I feel terrible because I keep hitting on these ones that look like large, like salary increases. But the 603, the librarian, looked like it was a 10% increase. I'm assuming just a new staff or something. I don't know, maybe, or just where they fall in the.
Yeah, again, it's looking at real-time information, real-time reports, real-time projection based upon credits, movement across the scale.
Hey, so they earned it. Good. Anybody else? 581 to 609. All right, 610 to 638. I was just wondering if we could get an explanation on what the new 2,500 online 624 Gale and Bloom literature resource, and then obviously the column cuts off, so I can't see the rest of it.
So that certainly isn't anything new. I think it just was unpacked a little bit.
Oh,
Gale
okay.
and Bloom literature resource are they're online for periodicals, articles that are used for scholarly review for classes.
So it was somewhere else. Another one of those mysterious codes was for. Okay.
I took it out of the 622 and put it into 624 because I thought, because Gale and Bloom was something I used at University of Scranton
Okay.
for stuff, so I thought it was pretty cool to put there. So.
All right. So you pulled the 2,000 out, and then it slightly
Yes.
increased. Okay, got it. Got it. Does anybody else have any questions for somewhere between 610 and 638? All right, 639 to 667. Is this just another one we unpacked from somewhere else? Tuition reimbursement was buried elsewhere, and we've just given it its own line? Sorry, line 649.
I think we are clearly demonstrating that that is a budgetary item, And I don't know in the past that we earmarked that specifically.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yep, that is absolutely correct, Dr. John.
I don't have anything else for 639 to 667, if anyone else does.
I know you had asked a question before. I'm going backwards to 620 and 621.
We
There's
we
this.
passed that, I'm sorry.
Don't give me that. I'll give you a cookie.
Please proceed with your question.
The 620 and 621, it's the Wilson reading student materials and teaching materials. That's only about 4,300. And I know you had asked before about that being rolled up into that amount. And I know what we had looked at before that was about the 12,000 was professional development. So that was way back at the beginning. But I haven't seen anywhere else where that was a rolled up amount. So that would be something that, for the reading consumables on 142, where it was the 14,000. So that might be something that would be nice to know, like what all is going into that 14,000, to look at that.
Marcy, what number was that at the beginning? Do you recall?
One, line item 142
Thank you.
that we had talked about.
Yep.
And I think it was the thought that that was the Wilson plus maybe some other things. And just to be able to see kind of where that's coming from. And it might, you know, is it possible that it's coming from because we've added whatever that program is now, K through 5, and are there consumables there as well?
So a little bit more of an explanation as to what's in
Just
142.
an idea of where all of that's coming from, because it
It's
is
like-
such a large.
It's like some of the things were parsed out, but some of them are rolled up, and it's kind of hard to
Yeah, it's hard to.
decipher the difference.
It's not like I'm going to say, no, you can't have your reading and your writing materials, but it would just be nice to know where it's
All right, was there anything else up to 667? Does not sound like it. All right, we will go 668 to 696. Admittedly, I don't use the USPS or postage for much anymore, but are we really mailing enough that we expect that to go up $500? Yes? Okay, I don't know, did the price of stamps go up that much in a year?
Yeah, and there's some things we
Yeah.
just still have to mail.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I'm sure we do. I just didn't know that the price of a stamp.
There's an extra charge you'd actually want to have the letter delivered, see.
Oh, yeah. So you have to grease the,
Yeah.
grease the postageman's hand. All right, does anybody else have anything up to 696? All right. We'll do one more page here, 697 to 725. I do not have anything. Does anybody else have anything up to line 725?
I'd like to mention one thing. On the governor's budget, the proposed increases for the governor's proposed budget increases for the Susquenita School District total an additional $635,000 in extra income for the school district if it passes as is. So that's information I got from the conference last week. So,
And it's important to note that that is not included in any of our revenue.
yeah, it's not included.
We will
at
not
this time.
include it until that is 100% ready to go.
And the budget last year passed without any additional revenue in there, which did pass with an additional $200 and some thousand in revenue coming in. So we did not pass with any additional revenue coming in because the governor's budget and the state's budget was not finalized when Susquenita passed their budget. So.
All right. At this point, we are going to stop at line 725. That gets us 3/4 of the way through the individual line items on the budget for review. We will pick back up on 726, line 726, next Tuesday at 6 o'clock at the second scheduled budget workshop meeting.
And I assume we could circle back
And yes,
if needed.
there were, please feel free if you didn't get a chance to review the entire thing and you want to
I
add
know there's
questions to the budget
Three people aren't here. They may-
worksheet.
yeah.
Yep. And I believe you will have takeaways to get back with, so.
Yep, some of
we
the
look
items
forward
that
to
we discussed this evening were item number 157, 192, 350, 346, 499, 571, 593, and line 142 unpacking.
Okay.
And we have to go. And we have to show the budget presentation slide with the 5-year comparison that Dr. Jones had asked for last meeting.
All right, at this point, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is a motion to approve the board's discipline committee recommendation for student 041009.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Just look on your agenda, there's meeting schedule noted there. Again, next Tuesday, March 28th, here in the LGI, 6 o'clock for the second budget workshop meeting. And then policy committee meeting and caucus meeting the week thereafter, followed by the regular school board meeting on the 11th. All here at the LGI. Please join us, riveting good time. At this point, any public comments in general? All right.
Oh,
At
here-
this,
Okay.
I'm sorry, any board reports, even though it's not on here, but please feel free.
Yes, just a reminder, next Tuesday at Cumberland Perry Career and Tech Center, they're having the breakfast for board members are invited down. It starts at 8:30. If you can make it, it'd be a great idea.
All right, at this time, I'm going to make a motion to move to adjournment to executive session with no voting to occur afterwards.
So moved. Second.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Well, he said so moved, too, so.